This is G-Free Radio. Here's your host, Peter Stewart.
This week on the G-Free Radio Show, we hear what it's like to live gluten-free in Britain. But it's not Britain as you know it. I'm talking about the British overseas territory of the Falkland Islands in the South Atlantic. That's 8,000 miles away from London and off the coast of Chile and Argentina. It's a collection of hundreds of islands, about 5,000 square miles. That's 3/4 the size of Wales or the size of Connecticut in the US. It's certainly remote, and the 2,500 British citizens who live there love it that way. But it can be a struggle living gluten-free. We hear about life there and also about issues travelling as a celiac in the Patagonian region of Chile, about 400 miles away from the island's capital of Stanley. Our bread series continues with a bakery from County Donegal in Ireland whose loaves come in at just 1 gram of fat a slice. We've got research that says food allergies have nearly doubled among black children in recent years. Look at how gluten can cause depression, anxiety and brain fog, and eating gluten-free at school. We finish off our series on gluten-free grains and flours with an awesome resource for mixing your own flour combination that you can try out at home. You've really got to try out some of these mixes. And we look at some of the greatest G-Free tweets that caught our eye this week. All that and more in the G-Free Radio Show with me, Peter Stewart. So as I say, welcome to the show. Hope you've had a great week and you're raring to go and learn a little bit more about the gluten-free world and living life as a celiac in the world's only weekly G-Free podcasts that you can listen to at your leisure. Oh, and incidentally, don't forget that all of our archive editions are free and always will be, so you can go back and listen to those on iTunes or YouTube, or here, perhaps you're listening via Spreaker.com, which is our main host for these programmes. Let's start off then with that first item that we mentioned a few moments ago, and that's about how food allergies have nearly doubled among black children. It's over the past 2 decades that they've been following the statistics, and reports of food allergy, as I say, nearly doubled among black children. Although childhood food allergies are on the rise overall, the spike in these allergies among black children is pretty alarming. That's according to researchers from Johns Hopkins University in Baltimore in the US. It remains unclear if the sharp increase is the result of better detection or some kind of trigger in the environment. The study, pretty conclusive, involved more than 450,000 children. So not messing around here with a handful of children here and a handful there. The researchers found that between 1988 and 2011, so a long-term study with lots of people taking part, food allergies increased among black children at a rate of 2.1% every 10 years. Food allergies increased at a rate of 1.2% each decade among Hispanics and 1% every 10 years among white children. And the study's author, Dr. Corinne Keat, who's an assistant professor of paediatrics at that university, said our research found a striking food allergy trend that needs to be further evaluated to discover the cause. It's important to note this increase was in self-reported allergy. Other conditions like food intolerance can often be mistaken for an allergy because not all symptoms associated with foods are actually caused by a food allergy. A separate study also published in the same journal, that is the March issue of Annals of Allergy, Asthma and Immunology, reported in medicinenet.com, pointed out that many doctors who specialise in allergies can predict whether a child will be more likely to outgrow their food allergy or if it'll remain a lifelong condition. A quote from Dr. Wesley Burks, who's an allergist and American College of Allergy, Asthma and Immunology Fellow, says, "Those allergic to milk, egg, soy and wheat are more likely to tolerate these allergens over time than those allergic to other items like peanuts and tree nuts." And I guess we see that very often, don't we? The number of people who cope with an allergy to wheat or gluten, I use allergy in its broadest possible sense, live with that for years and years, obviously before diagnosis. Without pointing out the obvious, you're not going to live for years and years if you've got a peanut allergy and you eat a peanut for obvious reasons. Let's move on to our second report at this end of the programme. Do you suffer from depression, anxiety disorders, brain fog, memory loss or other brain-based issues while conventional medicine turns to drug treatments? Recent research points to poor gut health as the root of mental illness. We've spoken about brain fog, to use that umbrella term, several times on the programme before. The Cape May County Herald.com has brought our attention to this explanation. It's because inflammation in the gut triggers inflammation throughout the body, and gluten sensitivity has been found to affect brain and nerve tissue more than any other tissue in the body. Gluten sensitivity causes depression, anxiety, brain fog and other brain symptoms by irritating the lining of the small intestine, resulting in leaky gut, which is that condition in which the intestinal wall becomes overly porous. That allows undigested food, toxins and bacteria into the bloodstream, where they trigger inflammation throughout the body and brain. Also, certain harmful bacteria that travel through a leaky gut into the bloodstream releases, this article says, toxic molecules that are linked to depression and various psychiatric disorders. Briefly, to finalise, the gut damage caused by a gluten sensitivity can also prevent the absorption of nutrients essential for brain health, especially zinc and B vitamins. These nutrients are critical for the synthesis of brain chemicals that prevent depression, anxiety and other brain-based disorders. It's always interesting stuff. I find it every single week when I'm doing the research along with my colleagues to come across how a reaction to gluten can affect so many different parts of your body. It can manifest itself in so many ways, which is always intriguing to read. Finally, just ahead of our first interview this week, and as I say, we're going to Ireland, and a really interesting conversation with a pure bread bakery. We'll come to that in a few moments' time. First of all, very, very briefly, this final item in this part of the programme, Celiac UK suggesting that with a little bit of menu planning, every child can have a school meal. Enabling students to eat with their peers is essential, but this requires careful menu planning and preparation combined with clearly labelled menus, providing a gluten-free option or signposting to meals that are made without gluten-containing ingredients. It may be possible, this report says, from Educatoring magazine, which in itself is a fantastic name, isn't it? Educatoring magazine. Enabling students to eat with their peers is essential, but this requires careful menu planning and preparation combined with clearly labelled menus providing gluten-free options or signposting to meals that are made without gluten-containing ingredients. It may be possible to produce gluten-free meals with only minimal changes to menus. Well, this is something we've spoken about several times on the programme before, certainly from a personal point of view. When you go to a restaurant and you come across a menu and you think to yourself, well, hold on, just with a little bit of foresight, with a little bit of planning, it wouldn't be too difficult to produce a menu that everybody could eat. It really wouldn't. So only minimal changes to menus is what they're suggesting. Some dishes you are serving may already be gluten-free, or ingredients may be adjusted to make the dishes suitable on a gluten-free diet. For example, using corn flour instead of wheat flour to thicken a sauce, or swapping gluten-containing stock powder for a gluten-free version. Celiac UK have carried out research in commercial kitchens and with caterers over the last 3 years that demonstrates that even in busy school kitchens, it's possible to prepare safe gluten-free options. And you know, that reminds me of a tweet that we saw during the course of the week, and we'll be telling you a little bit more about that in a few moments' time here on the G3 Radio Show. And this week we continue our series looking at different gluten-free breads which are available. So over the last few weeks we've looked at a small family-run bakery that was just getting its first unit together, its first production line together, just to the north of London. And last week we looked at one of the bigger bakery companies that's well known across the UK, one of the oldest established gluten-filled bakeries, if you like, that's been around in the UK since the 1800s. This week, let's go over to Ireland and County Donegal, and in a few moments' time, we're going to be hearing from Aisling O'Loughlin from the Pure Bread Bakery. But first, a little advert.
Pure bread is everything you love about bread. Soft, moist and delicious. It's also high in fibre, low fat, gluten-free, wheat-free and dairy-free. So it's guilt-free too. The secret to Pure Bread's delicious taste is our special sourdough recipe. Pure Bread leaves you feeling satisfied without that heavy, bloated feeling, so you can feel good about eating bread. Pure Bread, the bread everybody loves, now loves everybody.
My name is Aisling O'Loughlin. I'm working for Pure Bread Bakery, so we're an Irish bakery, and we're going to launch in 2 weeks' time in Ocado, the website, so that's our first time we'll be available in the UK market. Hopefully within the next 6 to 12 months you'll see us on your retailer shelves here. We've been at the Allergy and Free From show today in Liverpool and yesterday, and it's been a huge success.
And you've had huge success elsewhere, haven't you? Around the world, I didn't realise.
Yes, we're listed nationally in Ireland at the moment, and all the leading retailers there, and all of the local suppliers also. And we launched last year nationally in Coles and Woolworths in Australia, so we're available nationwide all over Australia at the moment.
And tell me about your range, because these look really different. What I've mentioned before we started recording, how great it is to see a slice of bread which isn't just a uniform brown colour. It's got those little flecks of... Well, flecks of what?
Well, that particular one that you were looking at is a chia seed loaf. So it's a loaf that's enriched with chia seeds, and as we know now, chia seeds are great for us. So loads of protein, loads of omega-3. I think they have more vitamin C than oranges and more iron than spinach, so they're great. They're a real superfood.
It's a superfood, yeah.
They are a superfood, yes. Our range, what we've done, we've spent a lot of time developing our range before it went to any shelves and anywhere in the world. What we've done is taken a nutritionally balanced approach. So we don't want our breads to just have the taste and texture of real bread. We want them to be good for you as well. So all of our breads are low in fat and high in fibre, as well as having the taste and texture of real bread.
It's a difficult market though, isn't it, bread?
Yes, bread is a very, very difficult market, especially gluten-free bread. There's a lot of competition out there at the minute, but we feel the range that we have has something different to offer. It's gluten-free, wheat-free, dairy-free, nut-free. We're working on some new options, diabetic-friendly. We're working on including soy-free and egg-free, so hopefully we'll be able to add to the range within the next 12 months.
That's an awful lot of research and development and time and going back to a recipe and tinkering and slightly changing and so on.
Yes, there's an awful lot of work involved in it. You wouldn't believe a recipe can change 50 times before we'd be happy to release it. But it's worth it in the end if we give our customers, we really care and we listen to them. Like days like today is essential for us to move forward with the range. We hear what's needed and we try our best to give the customer what they want. We have as well a new range here today, and it has been going down a treat. Secret Centre luxury muffins. So what we have is a lemon flavoured sponge muffin with a lemon coulis injected liquid centre, dusted with sugar nibs, and we have a double chocolate chip muffin with a liquid chocolate centre. So they're not low fat like our breads, but they are absolutely delicious.
So these are the luxury, these are, once a week or a special treat or at Christmas, something like that.
Exactly, they're your special treats.
And that's partly what it's all about, isn't it? Taking something that, again, muffins, there's an awful lot of companies that do muffins, but you finding a point of difference, developing perhaps a different flavour or a slightly different concept.
Yes, well, I think our muffins are that little bit different because they're injected with a liquid centre, so they're that little bit more luxurious, but they also are unrecognisable as gluten-free. So we have had people here all day yesterday and all of today who have had maybe their partner with them who isn't gluten-free, and they're turning to them saying, oh, you have to taste this one. They're going around and maybe not tasting everything because they don't have to, and they're buying them for themselves just to enjoy as a treat, because what we feel is gluten-free should be just standard quality, the same as what normal bread is, and just happen to be gluten-free. So these muffins are absolutely delicious, and they just happen to be gluten and wheat-free.
And a bit of a rustle beside us just then as people are looking at the at the rolls here. Now these kind of torpedo rolls, I suppose people would recognise them as. Again, slightly different shape for hot dogs and things like that, as well as just your ordinary fillings.
Yes, they're very versatile. We had them shaped in that way because you can have them as a salad roll, but as you just mentioned, you can have them as your hot dog as well. You can cut up your burger and put it in it. So we wanted to make it as versatile as possible, and the 3-pack then just suited. We asked around different celiac societies for their opinions, and 3-pack was what was the most popular, so that's what we went with.
And again, a different shape jumps off the shelf.
Yes.
Point of difference, isn't it?
That's it, exactly. It's trying to have that little bit different out there, but it's also, if you listen to what you're being asked for and you give the customer what they want, then that jumps off the shelf with them as well.
Silly not to do that, asking around, isn't it?
Really
and giving people what they're clamouring for.
Yeah, it definitely is. Like, the knowledge is there, and the customers are telling us all day yesterday and all of today exactly what they want, so why not do it that way?
And so much so that actually you've sold out of some of your items this weekend.
Yes, we have. We only have our multigrain farmhouse loaf, which we brought extra of, available for sale at the moment, and our muffins. We have sold out of everything else. We had a raisin toast, which is a new product. It was sold out at about 1 o'clock yesterday. And we've had people offering any amount for our display raisin toast, but we have to hold on to it for a little bit longer.
So, I mean, that's really good, isn't it? I mean, obviously the process is people come to the show, they taste something, they like it so much, they buy it, you sell out. That's a win-win, isn't it?
Exactly. It's a win-win for us, and it also gets our name out here in the UK. This is our first show in the UK, so we've been telling people, if you want to see us, if you like the products and you want to see us on your shelves in the UK, go into your local store manager of wherever you shop and request for purebred to be ranged.
And where can people find out more about you? Where can they buy you in the meantime?
Okay, in the meantime, you'll be able to buy some of our products through the website Ocado in 2 weeks' time. If you would like to find out more information, you'll find it on www.purebred.ie. And you can send us an email there. We have a Facebook page as well, Purebred Gluten-Free Bakery. So it's Purebred is Purebred, just for anyone who, sometimes there'll be a little bit of a mix-up there. And if you want any more information, feel free to drop us a line on Facebook, Twitter, or on our website.
Still to come on the programme, we've got an awesome resource just to finalise and wind up our series on gluten-free grains and flours. It's a fantastic list of the different combinations of flours you can put together yourself in your own kitchen to make different items, so whether it's breads or whether it's cakes or whether it's pastries and so on, and it's various combinations of maybe sorghum flour or rice flour or corn flour or almond flour, the kind of flours that we've been talking about over the course of the last several editions. So 6 cups of this and half a cup of that and a spoonful of xanthan gum or tapioca flour or various other things, various different combinations where you can go, a one-stop shop. So you've got all that list all in one place, and you can try out those different combinations for yourself. So that is still to come. Also, various tweets of the week which have caught our attention. They are on the way as well. And also telling you a little bit more about what is going to be coming up over the next few weeks on the G3 radio show, brought to you by me, Peter Stewart, the world's only weekly G3 podcast, so you can listen wherever you are and whenever it's convenient to you, whether you're commuting or exercising or doing the housework. First of all, a few months ago, you probably didn't realise it, but I was away for a couple of weeks, and I went to one of the furthest outreaches of Britain. I went to the Falkland Islands, which you may have heard about, partly because of a dispute over that territory about 20 years ago. The Falkland Islands in the South Atlantic, so 8,000 miles from London, off the coast of Chile and Argentina. As I said at the top of the show, it's an intriguing place. It's a little bit of Britain thousands and thousands of miles away. The other side of the world is about 3/4 the size of Wales, or perhaps it may be easier for you to realise the size of it if I say it's the size of Connecticut, and it's just got 2,500 to 3,000 British citizens there. So what's it like living so far away from the mainland for 500 miles? There are various restrictions into what fresh food is brought in because of the flight restrictions from Argentina, because of the dispute over the territorial waters and who, inverted commas, owns the Falkland Islands. And also the problem with things like, well, fruit, for example. How can you transport fruit, especially something like bananas, that goes off in a matter of days? How can you do that, even if it is coming from Chile? How can you get access to a wide range of gluten-free products when you're so far away from the Western world, you know, from Europe, from your home country? I use that term loosely. What do you do about providing a whole range of gluten-free foods in a supermarket or store on an island when so few of your potential customers will be buying those items? Some questions that I've put to one of the local residents when I was down on the Falkland Islands a few weeks ago.
I'm Julie Clark. I'm a celiac. I was diagnosed in Australia, actually, but I have had several colonoscopies and that here, and it was picked up about irritable bowel, which seemed to be the start of it. And then I got tested in Australia because I was having lots of problems.
Mm-hmm. So how easy was it to go through the health service here on the islands? Because obviously it's a little limited, isn't it? So did they identify there was a problem immediately, and then those biopsies and so on, were you able to have that done here?
No, it was all done away from here. But then again, I never ever really went into it here. I knew there was a problem, but I didn't know what. And I lived away for a little while, so that's when I found out what it was.
Was that quite a straightforward process, or because very often it can be misdiagnosed, can't it? As you say, irritable bowel syndrome,
yeah.
or just too much stress or something like that.
Yeah, that's how it starts, and that's usually the first thing they'll say to you. But I actually went to a naturopath in Australia who was the one that got me on to finding out all about it, and was convinced that was what's wrong with me, and it ended up it was.
And it turns out you also told me you had a skin test as well.
Yeah, they put like a graph thing on your back, and it showed up all your allergies. And then also I had a biopsy done.
So is it just the celiac, just the gluten you're allergic to, or is it other things as well? Because sometimes, unfortunately, they do go hand in hand with other problems, don't they?
I get problems if I eat too much corn as well. Every food near enough has something in it. You've got to be really careful and see what's in everything that you're going to buy to eat.
How long ago were you diagnosed?
2005.
And how much did you know about celiac disease or gluten before that? I mean, you work in the food business, so did you know much about it?
Nothing at all. But I soon learnt and soon found out and researched. And
so you've done quite a bit of travelling. So you're now back on the Falkland Islands, which is 8,000 miles away from the UK and a couple of hundred miles off the coast of Argentina and Chile. Food is quite expensive. There's a greater variety than there has been before. A lot of it comes in tins and packets and so on. How easy is it to find gluten-free?
Easier than it was, but it's still a challenge, even now. You're still really, really struggling for choice. You'll find the occasional crackers, but things tend to come in that you like, and then they've gone, and then they never seem to come back. So that happens a lot. Cereals, for instance, some things will say it's cornflakes, but when you read on it, it's got wheat in it as well. So you're not always going to get gluten-free cereal, for example. A lot of the rice crackers you have to really read because a lot of them have wheat in them or soy, and soy isn't all that great either, for me anyway.
And what about pastas? I've seen quite a range of pastas. Pasta seems to be, I suppose that's because it's light, it's easily transported, is it? It's got a long shelf life as well.
Yeah, you can get a good selection of pasta.
I've seen some gluten-free flour, some of the Dove's range.
Yeah, you can get gluten-free flours, rice flour. Gluten-free flour you can generally get, yeah. I've only ever seen one bread mix, and that was I think I got a couple and then it was gone anyway. That doesn't faze me so much because I think you get used to not having that, and that's not such a bad thing because it's a lot of carbs. I eat a lot of protein, and being here in the Falklands, you have got that advantage that everything, is grown here. If you're getting your own garden stuff, or you're getting something out of the garden from someone else, or the market garden, say for instance, and all the meat is organic. As far as your proteins and your vegetables go, you can live quite healthily here if you're conscious of what you're eating. And that's the beauty. You do know that the meats are organic. You do know that everything you're getting here is free of additives and things like that. And that part of it's nice. The fruit part's very difficult, of course, because the fruit is so expensive and a lot of the time not good.
Because it can't be grown here, and because you're so far away from anywhere for transportation, and so the fruit's going to go off too quickly.
Well, sometimes it doesn't arrive in great shape, so you're paying a lot of money for not good fruit.
And as you say, expensive. I mean, gluten-free food is expensive anyway in the UK, so here, it's expensive and then some.
Yeah, it is. It's very expensive for gluten-free food here. And like you say, you don't get the choice of going down and getting a pack of gluten-free biscuits, or if you wanted something like that, you haven't got that choice. So I personally find the biggest challenge is good rice crackers. I mean, a lot of people will have the rice cakes and that, and I detest them. It's like eating cardboard. For me, anyway. It's horrible. But I just like good rice crackers where you can get them that have sesame in, black pepper, that sort of thing. Sometimes you'll see them and pick them up and think, great, and then you read it and it's got wheat in it.
There's a certain joy, isn't there, when you pick something up new from the shelf and you look at it thinking, you know what, I'm not going to be... Oh, I can!
Yeah, it's like Christmas.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, it is.
What do you really miss then, Julie?
I miss the choice of gluten-free and other gluten-free crackers. You could go to, let's say, Sainsbury's or somewhere like that, and you can get a whole range of gluten-free crackers. I really miss that. And the choice of if you want a gluten-free biscuit or if you want a gluten-free cake, you can get it. Or a pastry or something like that, but you can't here unless you cook it yourself. Mm-hmm. And the other thing I miss the most, I probably would say, is fresh fruit.
How many other people do you think on the islands? We've got a population, or a resident population as opposed to the military, of 2,500, 3,000. How many people do you think are gluten-free celiac? Generally around the world it's thought about 1 in 100. Is there a little community of you, or...?
Definitely. And I wouldn't even like to guess at the percentage here because I don't know, but lots of people that have said to me about being gluten-free or just being diagnosed as celiac or whatever, there is a lot here. There is. And I think there's more and more people throughout everywhere now coming up with this because of all the chemicals and additives that are going into our foods and into cereals and your wheat. Your wheat's not pure wheat anymore, so I think that's a lot of the problem. We produce gluten-free brownies and peanut butter cookies and that sort of thing. But to produce breads and everything, I don't think there's a big enough market to just solely that. And you'd have to do it with something else. If I want gluten-free bread, then we make it. That's simple as that. But there is an ingredient that goes in gluten-free bread that actually gives me heartburn. So I don't eat very much of it. And I'm not sure which part of it is, but certainly something does trigger me off. And since I've been a celiac, I've now become allergic to shellfish in the last 2 years, which is devastating.
Well, especially on an island, yeah, I should imagine. So what are you missing out on there? Obviously the shellfish, but what is the main thing that you regret?
Shrimp and lobster, because I used to... When I lived in Mexico, I used to live on shrimp, and I used to live on, I used to get crab, and then in Canada we used to eat lobster, but I can't do any of it anymore, no. And that came on very quickly, all of a sudden.
But you're struggling through.
Yeah. I can still eat fish, which is fine.
Julie Clark from the Falkland Islands lives in Stanley, and if perchance you ever find yourself on the Falkland Islands, I can thoroughly recommend it as a location. I've been there a couple of times for various reasons. But Julie actually runs a chocolate shop there where they make their own chocolates. Bittersweet is the name of that chocolate shop. If you're, well, you can't really miss it in Stanley, which is the capital city, because there's not much of Stanley, as you can imagine, with just 2,500 people. If you're there on a cruise, it's just one street or two back from where the cruise liners come in and disgorge their passengers for a day trip. Bittersweet. It's on John Street in Stanley, and yes, their chocolates are all gluten-free. And I'm just looking at some of these, the card that I got when I was down there with the chocolates. And I love it. All the names are to do with various places or features of the Falkland Islands. So they've got Bailey's Bridge, which obviously has Bailey's liqueur and fits in with one of the landmarks there. Also, they've got, so let's have a little look down here. Surf Bay, caramel enrobed in milk chocolate. It's a fantastic bay just outside Stanley. Albatross, for obvious reasons, white chocolate and orange ganache enrobed in white chocolate. And let's have another Tumble Down, milk chocolate and lamb's navy rum, ganache enrobed in milk chocolate. Tumble Down is one of the landscapes, one of the hills just outside Stanley, notable, of course, because of one of the battles during the Falklands War back in 1982. Now, it's funny how kind of some things go together, because a few days ago I was speaking to Rachel Begun, who you may know from her fantastic blogs and Twitter feeds. Rachel is in the United States, and I was talking to her for a full-length interview, which is going to be coming up soon on the G3 radio show. And Rachel mentioned something that I thought, hold on, we'll take that little clip of this interview and run it this week, because Rachel has recently been on holiday to Patagonia. Now, you're totally forgiven if you're not entirely sure about the relationship between the Falkland Islands and Patagonia, but right down the bottom of South America, just kind of where it curves over that little bit, where it turns over, where the seas are incredibly rough, just off the coast of that bottom end of Chile is the Falkland Islands, and go back to the mainland of Chile about 400 miles. And that very, very remote place is Patagonia. Very, very wild and windswept, but immensely beautiful. And it's a place that I was planning to go to a few years ago when I was down in the Falkland Islands then. Unfortunately, I got disabled because of a back injury, so I couldn't actually go there. So I was intrigued to hear that Rachel had been there, and I asked her how she had coped with touring around a really remote but beautiful landscape like Patagonia when she was gluten-free.
Patagonia is just unbelievable. It's a beautiful place. It's extremely remote. There in the Chilean portion of Patagonia, there really aren't that many places to stay, and there certainly are not a lot of restaurants. So it's not like being in a city where you have all these restaurant options. We were actually stayed at this one resort that was really, really, really good about serving me gluten-free. In fact, prior to going to the resort, they had a questionnaire asking us about our dietary preferences and needs, and that's when they found out about my gluten-free needs, and they accommodated them to a T. So in Patagonia, we literally stayed in one place, and we had all of our meals there. In fact, the resort even prepared our lunches for when we would go on like a full day hike. They prepared everything to be gluten-free for when we went hiking and we were away from the resort. So it was just this one resort where we ate all of our meals, and it was phenomenal. So that's why it was very easy for me.
And as I say, you can hear more from Rachel Begun in a programme in a few weeks' time. So after several weeks, let's draw to a close our series looking at various gluten-free flours and grains. And, you know, perhaps it's the hardest part of baking gluten-free is finding the right flour to give you the consistency, the mouth texture, the the air pockets, the crumbliness that you actually want, or maybe the consistency, depending on whether you're making a cake or a sponge, or whether it's going to be pastry, or whether it's going to be bread. It's nothing like it used to be, just picking up a bag of ordinary self-raising or bread flour off the shelf, and always having that with you, because very often you need a combination of different flours perhaps, and of course if you run out of one of them, it means that you can't make that whole recipe. So perhaps the answer is mixing your own flour. It can be a little bit intimidating, but I've come across a fantastic resource that you may want to look up and print off and experiment with via thankheavens.com.au. And what it does is it lists all sorts of different combinations of flours, different mixes. Potato starch, potato flour, tapioca flour, sorghum, soy, rice, sweet rice, almond meal, corn flour, arrowroot, buckwheat, millet. These are the kinds of flours that we've been talking about individually on the programme in our series. Quinoa, xanthan gum is in here as well, and guar gum. Obviously they're not flours, also pectin as well, but obviously they are a constituent part if you're going to be mixing your own flour. And Thank Heaven's own flour mix is listed here. Working with grams and ounces, a combination of white rice flour and buckwheat, sorghum, potato starch, tapioca flour, milk powder and xanthan gum, but also another 15 other gluten-free flour mixes. Now, most of those, it has to be said, are in the American system of the various cups, but they're reasonably easy to work out the difference. And as I say, the different combinations of those flours, but also what else that you have to put with them. And also it's divided up into whether you want cake flours or bread flours. Really, really interesting stuff. So a really good guide if you want to experiment a little bit more in the kitchen. That website address again, if you want to go down this particular route, thankheavens.com.au, and look for the link, which is, or the blog, Mix Your Own Gluten-Free Flour Easy Guide, which was published by them on 2013-01-31. So the 31st of January last year, 2013. So we'll be really interesting to hear from you what your thoughts were, or what your successes, maybe failures as well, when you experimented with some of those mixes. And finally, let me draw your attention. You may have, over the last few months while we've been talking about these different flours, thought to yourself, I've never heard of that before. I didn't realise that you could cook with millet like that. Oh, there was such a thing as millet flour. It may be that over the last year, 18 months, 2 years, you came across quinoa for the very first time. Where were you when you first heard about Spreaker flour? Okay, because I can tell you where I was. I was right here when I was doing a little bit of research on this a couple of days ago. Spreaker, I'll spell it for you, F-R-E-E-K-E-H. It's a new grain. Well, it's perhaps not new, it's old. It's another ancient form of wheat, ladies and gentlemen. It is not gluten-free. It's roasted green wheat. It's fairly new to the United States and the Western world. It's being marketed now as a super healthy grain to eat. I reckon over the next few months, you're going to be hearing more and more about this. And just a heads up, in case you're wondering when you read about it or when you hear about it, hold on, is that gluten-free or not? It is not. It is associated with wheat. It is to be avoided on a gluten-free diet. Our thanks to celiacchicks.com, who brought that to our attention during the course of this week.
This is G-Free Radio.
And welcome to our Tweets of the Week. This is where we bring you some of the tweets which have caught the eyes of me and also the rest of the team over the last 7 days or so, which are particularly interesting or maybe amusing or worth passing on to you. Of course, you can see all of these if you follow us at G-Free Radio. So first of all, let me talk about a tweet which we mentioned in our first section in this week's programme, which was prompted by Allergy Action. And they bring our attention to a school caterer and their allergy notice to parents, which I thought was worth reading out. Not in full, some of this has been redacted, but it says, this school caterer has recently experienced a large increase in the number of inquiries relating to food allergies. We have closely researched the legislation relating to this area, looked at the new school food standards, and have looked at what other caterers offer across the rest of the country, and we've made the decision that from the start of the summer term, 22nd of April 2014, we will not be continuing to offer a separate meal. We are not a food allergen controlled factory. We are a school catering kitchen. We've been going above and beyond what's expected of a school meal caterer to provide a separate meal with many checks and double checks. We are not happy to continue to offer this service. We appreciate this may cause problems for some schools. However, part of the reason for this change in policy is that it has come to our attention that many parents are disregarding the advice in our food allergy and intolerance policy, and we're still being asked to supply meals for children that suffer from life-threatening allergies. They seem to be pulling out of that particular part of providing meals, school meals, for children with allergies. That quite important tweet to this rather intriguing tweet from Gluten and Corn Free. It would be interesting to know, they say, if coroners and medical examiners routinely record the state of intestines of the deceased, regardless of cause of death. Guys, I don't know what prompted you to ask that, but it's an intriguing question. A question prompted by Wuthering Bites and also picked up by Nathan Druitt and also Morrison's and also Celiac UK about whether bean sprouts are naturally gluten-free, because on the side of the pack that was bought in Morrison's, the UK supermarket, it says that they are not suitable for people with celiac disease because they are made on the same production line as gluten. And you know what? Several other supermarkets have that advisory. Some ready, prepared stir-fry mixes, for example, certainly in Sainsbury's, also say not suitable for people with a gluten allergy, even though essentially all that's in there is vegetables prepared on the same line as gluten. Makes me cross. Gluten Free UK brought our attention to the fact that the UK's first provider of paleo snacks and treats is out and about. You can follow them at Primal Joy Foods on Twitter. Alex Manos has this quote on Twitter this week: "Every bite of food you eat broadcasts a set of coded instructions to your body. Instructions that can create either health or disease." It's always reassuring, isn't it, when you go to a restaurant and because of a substitution, they actually reduce the price. How about this? From Meat Liquor Brighton, which is in Brighton in the UK, and it says, if you fancy bringing your own bun in, we can take £1 off your burger. Oh, that's so reassuring. Big respect to Meat Liquor BTN on Twitter. So a bouquet to them, but a brickbat to this company, which was brought to our attention this week by Molly Goodfellow, who's taken a picture of a loaf of bread and it says gluten-free in huge writing on the front of the pack, but then underneath it says may contain traces of gluten, as we also make gluten and sesame containing breads in our bakery. Oh, bad news. And another example of why you've got to double check every single label on the product you buy. Talking about food labels, Claire Baker wrote, "News to me, Triticum vulgare is wheat in Latin. Has anyone ever seen this on a food label? Sneaky, sneaky, says Claire. Watch out for that. Triticum vulgare." This interesting point from Rebecca Black. Maryland apparently is in the process of passing a food allergy bill that would require restaurants to have a person trained on food allergies and food preparation in the kitchen. What do you think of that, she asks. Could this help reduce the human error component when dining out? This from Crazy Sexy Delicious. Obviously they've been through a bad time recently. The next time I get the bright idea to eat a third of a loaf of gluten-full bread, just punch me in the stomach 20 times. It'd hurt less. Glutino Foods mentioned a tweet from G Free School. If you often forget, perhaps if you're newly diagnosed, what you can and what you can't eat, then don't forget browse, barley, rye, oats, which are contaminated and not marked gluten-free, wheat and spelt, BROWS, browse. You shouldn't eat them. And a couple more to finish off with. Gary Acey wrote, apparently gluten-free means does not contain gluten, because the store got rather annoyed when I tried to leave without paying for it. And from Skint London, how do you explain budget day to kids? Try this. And it's a picture of a board in a restaurant that says, teach your children about tax. Eat 30% of their ice cream.
Follow us on Twitter. We're at G-Free Radio.
That's the G-Free Radio Show. Next week we go on a G-Free baking course. Don't forget to tune in, listen often, and don't forget, if you are listening to us on any of those platforms, whether it's iTunes or whether it's YouTube or whether it's Spreaker, leave a message, follow us, and therefore we'll know exactly what you like about the programme. We are the world's only weekly G-Free Radio show.
And that was the G-Free Radio Show with Peter Stewart. And you. Thanks for listening. And remember, until next time, be good, be healthy, and be G-Free.